Are you getting ready to buy a house? Buyers, beware. It's the Real Estate Show. Welcome to the Real Estate Show. My name's Rick Naples, owner-broker of Zone Realty LLC. You know, buyers are looking to purchase homes, and obviously they're starting to come out. We're heading into another selling season. And sometimes the buyers are brand new and they don't know really what to expect or what they're doing. And other times the buyer may be seasoned because they've bought one or two houses. A lot of times when we have buyer seminars here at the Zone Realty office, we talk to young buyers about the things they can expect in the process of when they're going to buy a home. We meet in a conference room like this, and we just have them ask us questions. And we do our best to answer all of their concerns and inquiries. Let's take a look at this quick little presentation I put together on what buyers should beware of. That presentation pointed out a bunch of buyer beware, what I call myths. There's certain things that buyers should be aware of when they're going to look for a house. And a couple of the topics that were in that presentation I'd like to kind of talk about is the first one on how you go about looking for a house. You know, there's so many different websites out there. There's lots of realtor sites. There's massive search sites that are out there. So if you're looking for a home, you can jump on the computer and put in a town or an area or go to one of these sites and just start looking at houses. And that's great. It's fun, you know, to kind of look and see what the houses are that are out there. But why look at houses if you can't afford that particular home or live in that particular area? What you might want to do first is you might want to see what it is that you actually pre-qualify for so you know your price range. And I've talked about pre-qualifications and pre-approvals before here on the Real Estate Show and the difference between the two of them. In a pre-qualification, you're just having a general conversation with a mortgage officer on what you might qualify for, where a pre-approval is a little bit more in depth. That's when you've actually provided them information so that they can make a mortgage decision as to what mortgage you'd be able to get. And all you need to do is find the house to attach to it. It's a much better position to be in too when you're shopping. But like I said, the first thing that you want to do is try to see if your finances are in order to even move forward. Now that's not going to stop you from looking on the internet as far as houses are concerned. There's plenty of them out there to look at. Go ahead and look at the houses. Enjoy the virtual tours that we do here at Zone Realty. Enjoy a lot of the listings and the pictures that are out there. You even have some creative stuff that's being done with houses where you have those drones flying over properties to give you aerial shots. And it's always fun to look and dream at those houses that you might not ever find in your lifetime that you can afford, kind of how the other half lives. I like doing that once in a while myself. Again, when you're starting to do your search, you want to start with the very first thing, and that's to see if it's even possible for you to buy a house and what your finances are. Let's take a look at this quick presentation. I'll be back to talk a little bit more about what buyers should be aware of. A lot of times when I'm talking to first-time buyers, it surprises me on some of the things that they're not really aware of. And that is how, when they do the financing, they have to go with a traditional 30-year fixed-rate finance mortgage. Now that could be the best in some cases, but maybe it's not the right mortgage to be in. And again, when you talk to a mortgage officer, they can talk about the different programs that may be available to you. There's a lot of shorter term programs. You know, the old rule of thumb is with any loan is if you pay a little bit more than what your monthly payment is, you can always reduce the principal and shorten the amount of loan quicker. You can do that with mortgages too, so you may have a 30-year term on a mortgage, you pay a little extra every single month and reduce that term down. Or if you can afford it, you might want to look at a 15 or a 17-year term. And the other thing that comes along with mortgages is people think they have to put huge down payments down. Now, honestly, a big down payment is a good thing. You know, it shows the bank that you're invested in the home. But a lot of us don't have that much cash available in order to buy a home. So there are programs that are out there that require less than the 20% or 30% a conventional loan might require. And you might want to look into those. Let's take a look at this quick presentation, and I'll talk a little bit more about what buyers should be aware of. We had a group of buyers here into the real estate agency, and one of them had brought up the point that she was under the assumption that the sellers always pay the closing costs that are required when you're purchasing a home. That was a very good point to talk about, because even though the realtors out there on behalf of their buyers are going to try and negotiate most or all of the closing costs in the offering agreement, sellers are not obligated to pay those closing costs. They can say no. So the buyer has to be aware and be prepared that they may have to come up with additional monies besides down payment money to handle the closing costs. And I've gone through what all the closing costs are on the real estate show before, so we won't get into those details right now. But a good rule of thumb is to figure that if you're buying a house, take roughly 3% or 3.5% of that purchase price and have that money set aside to go towards your closing costs. Let's take a look at this other presentation on buyer information, and I'll be back to talk a little bit more about buyers beware. Big question we get here all the time is, does my credit have to be perfect in order to buy a house? Well, I'm going to answer that yes and no. Mortgages are based on your credit quality. The better your credit score, obviously the lower potential rate you might be able to obtain, but not necessarily. There are a number of programs out there that work with folks that may be in the lower realm of credit scores. Now, if you have really, really awful credit, you're not going to be able to get a loan, folks, so you're going to have to work on that. There are some mortgage companies out there that will actually work with you to tell you what steps you should take in order to get your qualification score up high enough to qualify for a mortgage to purchase a home. You know, sometimes we're all kinds of debt and we really don't know what directions to go in, what should we pay off, what should we minimize, what things should we keep, and so on and so forth. These mortgage officers may be able to advise you when they're looking at a credit report to give you an idea of what you can do. So does your credit have to be absolutely sparkling perfect? Not necessarily, but again, talk to the experts. I have another presentation I put together for buyer information. Let's take a look. I recently did a show on the inspections that you can do once you've made an offer on a house and that offer is accepted. And before I talk a little bit about that, let me talk about the actual offer on a home. Again, learning from buyers and the kinds of questions they address, one of the typical questions that came up is, do I have to, if I'm looking to buy a home, give them what they're asking? In other words, offer the asking price. Well, in an ideal situation, if the asking price is a fair price and your realtor has advised you that's what you need to do, you might want to do that, but not necessarily. Now, I want to warn you here. There's a lot of homes that are out there that are in distressed situations, and I'm talking about the short sales and the foreclosures. That does not give you a license to make a very low ball offer, to think that you're going to steal the house away because the seller or the bank is desperate to sell the property. That's not necessarily true. You want to make sure that when you're making an offer, you're making an offer that's fair to the seller and also is an offer that you're comfortable with. So try to avoid those low balls, because all that does is it makes you look silly. And if you do it one or two times on the same property, the seller tends to step back and think this buyer is just not serious, and they may not entertain any future offers you decide to make. So be real careful there. I have another presentation that I did put together with some more buyer information. Let's take a quick look at that, and then I'll be back to talk a little bit more about a couple of buyer beware points. I started to talk about the inspections, and I wanted to finish up my thought on that. You've made, or you've found the house that you wish to purchase. You've made your offer. The seller or the bank or whoever the owner of the home is has accepted your offer. Now you've got to go through the next stage, and there's two hurdles or two steps that you have to go through in order to make sure that your purchase is going to come together. And that's the home inspection, and followed up by the appraisal. The home inspection is very, very important to do, because that, my friends, is going to give you an idea of what you're actually trying to buy. And again, I've talked a lot about home inspections and the importance of doing that. You're making a very large purchase. Maybe it's the first time you're buying a house. You really want to know what it is that you're buying. Is this particular property in good working condition? Do all the utilities work? Do all the features of the house work? And so on and so forth. Are there structural issues, or are there anything that you need to be aware of beyond what you saw in the paperwork and the seller disclosure that may have been provided to you at the time that you were making the offer? So home inspection is really important to do. And this will give you the opportunity to spend 2, maybe 3 hours in the home that you're looking to purchase, going through it from top to bottom. Because you know, you walk into a house and you're making your buyer decision in the first 10, 15 minutes that you're in there, you really want to be able to go back and really spend some time in that home and get to know it. Let's take a look at this presentation, and I'll be back with what I call the real estate mailbag. Buyers beware. That's been the topic of the real estate show tonight. And this is the portion of the show I call the real estate mailbag. My opportunity to address questions sent to me here at the real estate show, or just asked to me by the general public if they recognize me while I'm out and about. And now that we're doing the seminars, we get a lot of questions in-house, so we address those the best that we can. One of the more common questions that come up is, with all the technology that's out there and all the information that's out there and all the help through all these third-party firms that's out there, why do I need a realtor to purchase a house? Well, let me answer that very simply. You don't buy houses every single day. You don't buy 5, 6, 10, 15, 20 houses a year. Well, maybe you do. But if you don't, you're making that one purchase. It's a brand new experience for you. It's a long transaction. There's a lot of ins and outs. There's a lot of people that get involved in order for you to close and get the keys to move into the home you wish to buy. And you need to have an expert behind you to guide you through that whole transaction. And that's what realtors do. A lot of people think realtors, all they do is sit back, they write a piece of paper, and they collect a big commission. I'm going to be real straightforward with you folks. Realtors work really hard to earn the money that they earn, because there's a lot of different ins and outs. And a purchase can fall apart a number of different times, and it takes the expertise of the realtor to help guide that deal through to the actual closing. My name is Rick Naples. This has been the Real Estate Show. I thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.